Napoli fans around the world, welcome to Napoli Talk. In this video, we'll talk about the most unilateral rivalry in European football, and that is between Cagliari and Napoli. Now, this rivalry only really starts in the 90s, and that is quite late considering that most teams by then have very well established rivalries between each other. But it all starts when a Uruguayan named Daniel Fonseca leaves Cagliari to join Napoli. Now, you have to understand the context of this. Daniel Fonseca is Cagliari's maybe most important player, 17 goals in 50 appearances, and he joins Napoli, who are fourth in the table. Cagliari fans see this as a betrayal. For what reason? Only they know. The difference between the teams at that point was significant. Maybe they felt that if he were to leave Cagliari, it should only be for the team that's fighting at the very, very top and not a team that's only fourth. In any case, Cagliari fans do not take this transfer very well. And on Fonseca's arrival to Cagliari in the 1992-93 season while wearing a Napoli shirt, he gets booed by the fans. He gets a little bit out of temper, and he even gets red carded in that game, much to the fans' delight. But at that point, there wasn't really a rivalry yet between Cagliari and Napoli. It was literally just between Cagliari and Fonseca. However, in the following season, the 1993-1994 season, things start to escalate. Napoli come back to Cagliari and they grab a 2-1 win thanks to 2 goals from Daniel Fonseca. Yes, you guessed it. But what makes this the start of the rivalry is the fact that Daniel Fonseca, after scoring his first goal, did this to the Cagliari fans. And that is a universal sign for... And so then throughout the game, from that goal onwards, there were a host of chants against both Fonseca and Napoli, with Cagliari fans calling the Neapolitan players and fans terroni, which is a derogatory name used to call southern Italians. Now, where this doesn't make any sense is that geographically, Cagliari sit below Naples, which means they're more southerners. So, yeah, IQ 2000, huh? And so from that moment onwards, the Cagliari fans and the Cagliari players made it an absolute priority to not lose against Napoli, especially when playing at home. And that proved to be true all the way up until 2010, but more on that later. So between 1993 and 1997, the rivalry was pretty fierce. However, just from the Cagliari fans. At this point, Napoli fans have not really gotten themselves involved, so it was very unilateral at that point. But in 1996-1997, Cagliari are facing relegation, and in this season, Napoli have just saved themselves from relegation. If you look at the table, it's something crazy. You've got teams like Roma and Napoli and Milan down there, but yes, Napoli saves themselves from relegation, and it's Piacenza and Cagliari that have to go through a relegation playoff. Now, the rules stated that this had to be on a neutral ground. The two options were between playing it at the Stadio Olimpico in Rome and the Stadio San Paolo in Naples. And of course, what does the Serie A decide to do? They go and play this game in Naples. Yes, what Cagliari fans consider hostile territory, but what is meant to be neutral ground. And this is where the rivalry really kicks off, because this is when Napoli fans get involved in the rivalry. Napoli fans decide to support Piacenza, but why do they do this? Not just because of the way they were treated at Cagliari in recent years, but also because Piacenza's coach Mutti was soon to be Napoli's coach. So the Napoli ultras and the Napoli fans simply decided that they were going to cheer on their next boss. So in that game, Piacenza win the game 3-1 and Cagliari get relegated, and they did not forgive Napoli fans for that, the Cagliaritani, and that is a huge moment in the history between Cagliari and Napoli, because Napoli gave Cagliari one of their darkest days in their history. Now, between 1997 and 2007, Napoli and Cagliari don't meet each other too often because we're up and down between Serie A and Serie B and not always at the same time. But from 2007 onwards, we've both been in the Serie A quite consistently. So as I was saying previously, since 1993, since that Fonseca double, Napoli did not win at Cagliari up until 2010. But they were not just games where we would lose or draw and it would just be a normal game. No, it was every single time there would be late minute drama or huge controversies, and it just augmented the rivalry and passion that Cagliari fans had towards this game. In fact, in 2007, when Cagliari hosted Napoli, Daniele Conti, one of Cagliari's most renowned players, scored a last-minute comeback winner against Napoli, and this is what he had to say. The goal against Napoli in 2008 was the most important goal of my life. This game meant everything to me, more than any other thing. And I'm serious, these guys are super into this rivalry, to the point that Barella, who was playing for Cagliari up until a few seasons ago, refused to go to Napoli because he was afraid of what the Cagliari fans would think of him if he did that, so he decided to go to Inter instead. So although this was a very one-sided rivalry, it was still painful for Napoli to go to Cagliari because for 16 years we hadn't had a win and we were suffering these late-minute goals all the time until 2010 with Walter Mazzarri and the trio of Hamsik, Cavani and Lavezzi, and the tables turned at that point. Cagliari get a super late free kick. The score is 0-0, but Napoli managed to counter. Edinson Cavani passes it to Lavezzi, who's through on goal and scores in the dying moments of the game, wins it for Napoli, and to make matters worse for Cagliari, in celebration he flings himself onto one of the advertising boards that has Cagliari's emblem, and the Cagliari fans go absolutely nuts at the fact that Lavezzi did this. But from that moment onwards, it marked a change in trend, and Napoli have enjoyed a lot of success playing at Cagliari. And by success, I don't just mean we win games. We absolutely have destroyed Cagliari in recent years. And the fact that Napoli has not just won, but humiliated Cagliari at home 3-0, 5-0, 5-0 again, have made, in Cagliari's eyes, Napoli the big bad guys. And they would love nothing more than to get some revenge, especially at home, which is why for them this is the biggest game of the season. If they can grab a point or a win against Napoli, it would literally make their season. And that's also because Cagliari don't really have any other rival within Sardinia that they can play against. They are the only team in that island that plays in Serie A. Having said that, last year Cagliari did manage to pull an upset in Naples. They managed to grab a very, very late goal to tie the game 1-1 against us, and it's ultimately those 2 points dropped that have caused Napoli not to go into the Champions League last season. So Cagliari definitely did have a role to play in Napoli's season, and there is a real sense now, after that result, from Napoli supporters as well, that we want to beat Cagliari at all costs, that maybe this game is not so one-sided anymore as it has been since 2010. And it will be extremely interesting to see how this rivalry keeps evolving in the next few years, especially if Cagliari can somehow build a team that competes in the higher ends of the table. Or alternatively, if they are struggling for survival and it's a Napoli win that ultimately might relegate them. In any case, guys, that's the rivalry between Cagliari and Napoli. If you enjoyed this video, then go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe. And as always, Forza Napoli sempre.